An accountability chart has really changed my life because as a business owner, most CEOs think that they have to do and be a part of everything. And you don't. When you start building out that structure and start putting things together, you're not having guys in the field calling you questions. It's limited my phone calls tremendously. I used to get 100 phone calls, 100 text messages, and around 100 emails every day. Now I probably get around 20 phone calls a day.
Welcome to Masters of Home Service, the best podcast for home service pros like us. I'm your host, Adam Sylvester, and I want you to crush it in business. We're talking today about working smarter and organizational health, organizational structure, accountability, those kinds of things that make you a great leader. Because here's the thing. Everything I just described is a leadership problem, and you're the leader. It's a you problem, but we can fix it. We're going to fix it today. So Jerry, Forrest, welcome to the show. I'm going to have you guys introduce yourselves, but Forrest, you are a COO, a fractional CFO, you a consultant, you help businesses grow. And Jerry is actually one of your clients, and he's crushing it in businesses too down in Alabama. So you guys introduce yourselves. Forrest, you go first.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to be here. My name is Forrest Derr. I own a company called Derr Consulting, and I've decided to build out a fractional business where I work with clients in various industries, helping them get their business structured and ready for the next level.
Glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
Yeah, Jerry?
My name is Jerry Jackson from Mobile, Alabama. Been in the construction industry for most of my life. Really enjoyed it. It's been a great journey. And we have a company called Professional Systems, which is a holding company for other subsidiaries. We have a roofing and construction division, electrical, plumbing, heating and air, and also an industrial division.
Awesome. Well, glad you guys are both here. Let's get into it. So organizational health, leadership, accountability, these are the things we're talking about today. What would you guys say is the biggest miss that leaders listening to this are doing on a day-to-day basis that they're just not getting right? What do you think is the main thing?
I'd say they're focusing on titles and not focusing on what people are supposed to be doing in the business. That's the thing I keep seeing over and over is that companies will have what I would call an organizational chart, but not an accountability chart. An accountability chart is a very different animal than an organizational chart. It really focuses on what those roles and responsibilities are.
Well, let's dig into that then. What's the difference there?
Yeah, an organizational chart is all about hierarchy. It's all about titles. It's all about status in the company.
Okay.
Whereas an accountability chart is really focused on what people are accountable to and what are they accountable for. It's a guide. It's a framework for the entire organization to know who is responsible for what in that organization. Who is responsible for accounts payable? Well, it might be the finance manager or it might be the accounts payable clerk. If you just go off titles, you won't necessarily know who does what.
Yeah. So then accountability. So do we need to have both?
The accountability chart replaces the organization.
It does. Okay.
Absolutely.
We only need one.
You don't need two. That would just be confusing. Yeah.
Yeah. Jerry, are you using accountability charts in your businesses?
An accountability chart has really changed my life. Because as a business owner, most CEOs think that they have to do and be a part of everything. And you don't. When you start building out that structure and start putting things together, you're not having guys in the field calling you questions. It's limited my phone calls tremendously. I used to get 100 phone calls, 100 text messages, and around 100 emails every day. Now I probably get around 20 phone calls a day.
A lot of those calls are from customers now. Yeah.
Still getting some from customers. I'm slowly working on having the customers call the office.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, hey, I want Jerry to do this. Hey, you need to call a professional to do this because you're going to get better service.
They still have your number stored in their phone. So
I keep passing off the office phone number. Call this number. You will get better served this way.
So accountability charts are ways to make sure that people know what their job is, right? What their actual role is, so that there's no more like blame game. This is your job. No, it's your job. No, it's your job. None of that goes away mostly, right? When you have a proper accountability chart in place. What does this actually look like in real life?
Visually looks like an organizational chart. So system-wise, the image of it looks the same, but it's the details that are the key point, and that is to go in and actually show somebody is over finance, and not necessarily the finance manager. They're accountable for finance. Underneath finance, they may have a person that's responsible for AP, another person responsible for AR, another person responsible for financial reporting, and you list out those 5 to 7 responsibilities. That's where the magic happens. When you can get to that granular of a detail, now the organization, everybody in the organization knows who's responsible for what, and it helps people know whether they're winning or losing.
Yeah.
I think one of the big things accountability chart that people don't understand is when you implement that, you can build out scorecard metrics so that each person can know whether they had a good week or a bad week last week.
Right.
And with an organizational chart, is very opaque. It's unclear whether you've had a good week or not.
Yeah. And Jerry, maybe you can give us an example here in a minute. I feel like accountability charts are operational charts just with way more detail, maybe. And so it might say something like, he's a technician, he's responsible for getting 2 5-star reviews a week, $10,000 a week in production, and maybe 5 upsells. That kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. So that way you can know whether they're doing their job or not, and whether they know they're doing their job or not.
Yeah.
So it does get to that granular of a detail, and you can't put 100 things out there. That's where another area where I see people that will embrace EOS and build an accountability chart. They'll have somebody that has 25 things they're responsible for. There's too many. They're never going to win, right? So what are the 5 to 7 major components that take up 80% of the results that they can drive? So there's that 80-20 rule. It's the 20% of salespeople produce 80% of the sales. We've probably heard that. It's what is the 20% of things that you do that produce 80% of the results. That's what you want on that accountability chart.
Jerry, give us an example in your business to change your life. Give us an example of what one of your workers, project manager or construction, whatever, what's it look like for them?
We rolled this out recently. We had a company-wide meeting, and we had apprentices all the way up to, myself, the visionary, the CEO. We put up on the screen, let these guys know who each person needs to contact when there's an issue, who each person needs to go to. Because at one time, the CEO, myself, and COO, we had just everything coming towards us. Every problem we knew about. And now it's got to the point where guys they're able to make decisions. They know they can make decisions that are in this accountability chart, and it enables them to be able to do those things. And that's helped tremendously. They know they can solve problems. They know what they're responsible for. And then each person knows who they're supposed to go to. The apprentice goes to the technician. Technician goes to the project manager. Project manager goes to the division manager. We have a division manager for every division. That person goes to the COO, and then up to the CEO. It's
a beautiful thing when you don't have everyone in your company as a direct report. When that shift happens, instead of having everyone's direct to me, and now you have that person's direct to him and he's direct to me, you have a layer there. It's also beautiful when people say, yeah, there was a problem yesterday, but you never heard about it because I solved it.
It's the best feeling in the world. When you hear about it a week or so later,
yes.
I was like, hey, what happened with this particular issue over here? It's like, oh, it's already resolved. We got it taken care of.
And I think that can't be understated. One of the things I've read about with Disney World is they've empowered their team members to make decisions that will impact the guest experience. When you can get your whole company making decisions and empowered to make decisions, like he said, it's a game changer.
Let's talk about that in terms of people have to have enough authority to delegate. Let's talk about delegation authority for a second. How do you guys go about using organizational or accountability charts to give people this empowerment to delegate these tasks to them, and not just tasks, big projects, big problems sometimes. How do you guys go about that?
Best thing I could say is when a problem comes up, you can be there with the guys to guide them through this before you answer it. Let them think about it. And a lot of times if you enable the guys, the right people, if you enable them and give them some time to think about how they're going to resolve it, a lot of the times they'll resolve it and you don't even have to get involved anyway.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times of that. The third time they'll come to you with a solution already. He's going to ask me anyways what I think the solution is.
And then instead of dealing with $20 problems, you're dealing with $100,000 problems. You're not dealing with the smaller day-to-day issues.
You absolutely have to empower the team to make decisions. You have to give them parameters. I had a finance guy that used to work for me. He wouldn't make decisions. And he was a finance manager, and I was incredibly frustrated with him. And I finally sat down with him and said, here's the deal. If it's a $500 mistake, meaning if the wrong decision is going to cost the company $500, I would rather you make the decision and make the mistake, and then we'll talk about it. I'm not going to fire you. You'll learn from it, and you won't do it again. If it's a $50,000 mistake, let's talk about it. Help them understand the parameters of that decision-making process and how they can be empowered to make decisions.
The more and more this happens day to day, the better these guys are going to get at making these decisions and choices to proceed forward.
The reps, yeah. And there is a transition period where I've never been empowered to make these decisions, and I don't like making decisions like your CFO guy. And so there is a transition period where we have to understand these are people, they're human beings, and they've been conditioned to live and behave in this organization a certain way. And just because we get up there and say, okay, now we have an accountability chart and things are different now, things have to become different in their minds.
Yeah, and it's also time for the managers to also make that transition, because you've got managers who have been in a position where they're constantly making every decision. So Jerry's COO that we're working with, coaching him into the position, I gave him a little toy barrel of monkeys.
Yeah,
the barrel of monkeys, right?
That's here. Yep.
So there's a book called The 5-Minute Monkey Manager, right? I don't know if you've read it before, but I gave him that barrel, and it's funny because when I meet with him on a weekly basis, he's like, I gave out 2 monkeys last week. And so somebody will come into his office or come to his job site or whatever and say, hey, I can't solve this problem. You hand that visual representation of that little plastic monkey and say, this is your monkey. I'm going to give you some guidance on how to make this decision, but this is your decision. You're not leaving this monkey in my office. You're out with it. So having those visual cues, as far as like you talking about from a transition standpoint, to get people to start making decisions, then they're at a point where I don't want to get a monkey from my boss. So I better not go in his office.
I got a monkey today.
I want to solve that problem. Right. Yeah.
So now when you walk around the office, you'll see monkeys hanging on the computer monitors. They'll be clipped on the computer monitors, and I'll walk there and say, hey, this monkey's been here for a minute. You haven't resolved this yet. And then the leadership team, we have our weekly meetings. The leadership team, they're talking about monkeys, how many monkeys they have and what they are. And they're puts a little bit of competition there of who's got the most monkeys, and hey, I got a monkey resolved this week. It helps build that culture and that morale. It gets the other divisions talking, and the other divisions getting involved with each other and talking through problems and issues. It brings in some unity. That's what we really work on in the business is culture and unity.
Guys, this is great content. I think our listeners are really going to be better for it. I do want to pause for a minute to talk about how Jobber can help with this accountability chart, make your organization healthier and better. How has Jobber helped you keep everyone aligned?
We can go into any of our Jobber accounts at any time and see exactly where we're at on jobs that we're currently doing and jobs that we've already closed out to see our profit margins. There's been a lot in the industry that have changed for material pricing. There's just been so many different changes. And I hear guys say, I'm making 30% margins. I was like, well, how do you know that? What softwares are you using? And a lot of the guys in this industry don't have an answer for that. If you're not tracking that, you need to start today.
Yeah.
You can't just take a scratch pad and put some numbers on paper and see where your profit margin's at. You need a system where you can go in and you can put these numbers in, have your guys clocking in, it's being accounted for on the jobs, and you can see exactly where you're at. You can make those changes along the way if you need to, but if you're not tracking that daily, you can't make any changes.
And Jobber makes it easy to track that kind of stuff.
Super easy.
I like Jobber because it helps just with simple things like instructions, photos, descriptions of the job, line items. It's all right there for our team. And so they don't need to call their manager or call me. It's all right there. I'm just going to read what they see. If they call me, I'm just going to read what they have already in front of them. They don't need to call me anymore, which is really fantastic.
It's good.
If you have chaos in your business, your people don't know what to do every day. They're constantly calling you. Hey, what do we do here? What are we doing? All this kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be that way. You can get Jobber and make it so much simpler for you and for your people and reduce the chaos in your business. Go to jobber.com/podcast deal, get an exclusive discount, and start running a better, more efficient, more enjoyable business today. Have you guys gone through that journey on your own with the clients and your own business where you're like, this guy's in the wrong seat? What do you guys do in those situations? How do you know if someone's in the right seat or not?
I try to move folks around if possible. If it's not possible, then we've had to bring a guy in for a division manager seat and had to move one guy to a different seat. If they have talent, you need to be looking at what talents they have. Just because they don't have the talent for that particular seat or they're not the best fit, you can still move those guys around in the organization to where they're a better fit.
If somebody is a culture fit, but maybe they've topped out, you've promoted them into a position where they just cannot handle that level of responsibility, you may have to demote them. You may have to move them into another seat. But if they're a culture fit, and if you have a large enough organization, find them another seat. But at some point, sometimes you just have to let people go, and it's difficult.
Let's rewind the hands of time a little bit with this person you're talking about, this imaginary person. We hired him. Let's pretend he is a good culture fit.
Yeah.
How do you make sure, hey, these are your accountabilities. This is what we expect from you. And if you do these things, you're a winner and you're thriving. If you don't, then we'll have a serious conversation. What does that look like functionally? Like, who has those papers printed and who writes those out and who does? Like, how do you handle that very situation?
I encourage my clients to use a software that it's called 90, and it lays out the accountability chart, lays out the roles and responsibilities. And part of the process is that you have a quarterly conversation with every team member, regardless of how long they've been there. And in that quarterly conversation, you evaluate the core values. Are they a core value fit? And then the most important component, which gets to what you're talking about, is the GWC. Do they get it? Do they want it? And do they have the capacity to do it?
Oh, that's good. Say that again. That's
GWC.
good.
Do they get the job? Do they understand it? Do they want the job? Because that's important too. And do they have the capacity to do it? Those three questions really get it to where it's not an emotional decision. I've had experiences where I had a guy, very talented, core value fit. He got the job. He's smart. He could do this job in his sleep. He didn't want the job. And so I had to go through the process to say, okay, this guy's a core value fit. What do I do with him? Well, look at the accountability chart. If we're talking about the accountability chart, there was a future position that we were going to add in the next 12 months that he had the skill set to do. We had it on the accountability chart because it was in the next 12 months, but nobody was sitting in that seat. Slide him over into that seat, hire somebody else to do the work that he didn't want to do. Now we've got a happy person, productive team member, core value fit, culture, skills as well. And then we've hired a newer person right out of college to grow into the company.
That would have been so much harder and way convoluted without the visual of the accountability chart.
That's correct. The visual of the accountability chart helps you make decisions.
Yeah. Jerry, did you ever use this 90 software that he mentioned for yours?
We use it every week.
Wow.
We stay in this 90 software, across the board.
You can even say you're getting ready to use it for your house.
We're using it on our personal lives as well.
What do you mean by that? What does that mean?
It's going to keep me and my wife on the same page with things that are going on in personal life. You can, budgeting, getting together once a week to figure out schedule. And I told Forrest, we're about to have a baby at the end of this month. I told Forrest, we're going to put an EOS poster in the nursery. We're going to roll this out, and I'm going to roll this out to my kids. I'm going to bring them up into this industry and roll this stuff out to them. So if I would have implemented this years ago, I was going to tell them where I would be at in business and in personal life.
Isn't it amazing when you learn a principle in business that transforms your business? Isn't it amazing how often it transforms your life? Like, holy cow, this totally applies to my life. Good, effective communication. And it should be mentioned, in case it's not obvious to our listeners, that every single accountability for every single person in your organization is to achieve the goal.
Correct.
That's right.
Correct. That's the North Star. Yeah.
And if it's not achieving the goal, then it shouldn't be on the list, right? Because everything is about the goal.
100%. But your people have to know what the goal is. And that's where that goes into accountability chart. They understand their roles and responsibilities, but they got to understand what that North Star is. Where is the company going? I had a client that I worked with. It was a growing company that went from 2 employees to 22 employees in 12 months. Hockey stick growth.
Wow.
And we worked out through the software and built out the what's called the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer. What is the 5-year plan? What is the 1-year plan, 3-year plan, et cetera? And I had a meeting with the entire company explaining to them what we were doing and what the plan was. And all this stuff was in the owner's head. All of it was in the owner's head, right? Yeah. And we sit down with this team of 22 people, and they all kind of looked at us after we shared what was going on. And I said, you have any questions? And everybody's like, no. I'm like, all right, come on.
Are you sure?
Are you sure? We just laid out where the profitability, sales.
This is massive.
How many buildings we're going to have, how many employees we're going to have, everything. One of the people sheepishly raised his hand and said, I'm relieved. And I said, you're relieved? And he said, I know where we're going. What kind of impact would there be on an organization if everybody in the company knows where you're going? That's the power of that accountability structure and having a plan and having it documented.
I've heard about this. What is it called? The capability canvas.
Capability canvas.
That's what that is.
Yeah. So the capability canvas, it sounds really profound. It's a spreadsheet. Okay. But what that spreadsheet does is it helps you go through the process to figure out what are the outcomes you're looking for this role. Okay. You got to not look at the person, because if you look at the person, you're going to pollute the role. So what are the outcomes you're looking for, and when you build that out and understand what the output is, the outcome, then you can start backing into and saying, okay, what does this person need to do on a weekly basis to reach that outcome? Once you have that, then you can say, okay, how do we need to build scorecard metrics for this person? The accountability chart is structured on roles and responsibilities, but you got to know what the outcome is.
That's right.
For that role, not just the business, but for that role.
So it's like a working backwards sort of exercise where you build your business on positions, not people.
Correct. Yeah, you got to build it based off positions. If you build seats for the people that you have, that is one of the biggest mistakes. I've done it before, so I can say it.
We all have.
With confidence.
People come and go.
You make a seat for Sally, but Sally is absolutely not the right fit for the organization, and it takes 6 or 7 months before you figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. There's 3 things I want to really focus on for takeaways for our listeners. Number 1 is you need to build an accountability chart. You need to have roles, responsibilities. They answer the question, what does winning look like for me in this company? You have to answer that question clearly and early on in the process. Number 2 is you have to empower your people to make decisions. You can't have all these people direct to you, always coming, hey, what should I do? What should I do? What should I do? No. This is your decision. Go make it. If you mess up, we'll clean it up later. But you have to empower your people or else you'll just get totally burned out. And number 3 is GWC. Do your people get it? Do they want it? And are they capable of doing this? You should go do this for every single person in your organization. Do they hit all these things? If they don't, you might need to move them to a different position or get them off the bus altogether. Start today. What makes you guys tick? What makes you guys wake up in the morning and do this thing of small business ownership? I
was made for this. I knew this at a young age, that this is what I wanted to do, and this is what I was going to be doing. I wanted to have multiple businesses. I wanted to have a lot of folks working for me, and it's really it was really God's will for my life for me to be doing this.
Yeah, that's great.
So I don't see myself as an entrepreneur. Some people argue with me about that. But what I thrive on is helping business leaders, business owners grow their business, get unshackled from their business. We talked about Jerry with less phone calls. How do I get an owner where their phone stops ringing? That's where I see success. And that's what gets me up in the morning.
That's great. Yeah. Well, guys, you guys are crushing it. Keep serving your clients. Jerry, keep serving your people, your family. Good luck with the baby. And I'm glad you're here. How do people find out more about you, Jerry?
You can find us at our website, prosystems.org.
Yeah, you can reach me at derrconsulting.com. LinkedIn is where I post most of my content, but Derr Consulting is another place to do it.
Great. Well, thanks for being here, guys. That was really great. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening. I hope that you heard something today that will make your business operate better with accountabilities, and go make it happen today. I'm your host, Adam Sylvester. You can find me at adamsylvester.com. Your team and your clients and your family deserve your very best. So go give it to them.